What if emotional mastery wasn't about staying calm all the time, but staying connected with what matters even when you're not calm? When emotions surge, it's easy to get reactive, shut down, or lose sight of who you want to be, but those moments are exactly when your response matters most. In this episode, I'm so excited because we're going to walk through 6 simple, powerful questions that can help you build emotional agility in real time. So you can shift your focus from a flooded mindset to a focused mindset and move forward with more clarity, groundedness, and choice. So, Dr. Teplow, these 6 powerful questions, they fall into a framework that we have for our upcoming emotional mastery quest called Calm. I thought you could maybe give us a little introduction to that and how we can go through these 6 powerful questions.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I want you to repeat what you said at the very beginning about calm, because I wanted to comment on that.
Well, I mean, wanted you to be able to give us an opening of the framework Calm and
Yes.
how these questions fit into this framework that we're using for this emotional mastery quest that we have coming up.
Right. So you said that when we think of emotional mastery, we think calm, but it's not only calm, and yet that is our framework. So kind of we want to kind of straddle both sides, because when people think, I just take the most obvious example. You're standing in the grocery line, person in front of you or behind you has a 2-year-old that's flipping out, having a temper tantrum appropriate for 2-year-olds. And the mom says, calm down. Or how many times have you been in some kind of interpersonal conflict, or somebody's quote flipping out, you say calm down. And so even though emotional mastery isn't necessarily about calming down, and we hope it isn't about tamping down those emotions, which is really not a productive way to go about it, people think about calm. So that's our framework, and it fits with the steps that we suggest you take to become a master of your emotional life.
So what we were saying here actually is that when you are emotionally a master of your life, that it's not about being calm all the time.
No, not at all. It's not about being calm all the time. No. And we use calm because it's a great acronym, as you'll see. So calm really reflects 4 components of a process that will help you master your response to emotionally charged situations.
And being calm might be one of those responses, but not all of them.
Absolutely. In fact, I was just thinking about an example of, and one technique that we've talked about in terms of how to be more connected to your emotions, and that is naming them. I notice myself getting angry, and I was just thinking about that in the context of, again, you're dealing with somebody who's really pissing you off, and you notice yourself getting mirroring that and feeling anxious or angry or whatever, and just by saying, I feel so pissed off right now, helps distance you
Gives you that
will
space.
and gives you that space. It's not about being calm, but it is about noticing, being present, which is part of, then I'm putting it in quotes, calming down. So let's talk about that framework, shall we?
Yeah, for sure. And get into these 6 questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So the C in calm stands for clarify what counts and where you want to go. What matters to you right now? And we've brought this up before. You can indulge in those feelings like, I'm so angry, I'm going to let myself blow up. You may win the battle,
Battle.
but you lose the war. You have to think, is a battle or war? You may you may win the battle, but you lose the war. So the question is, what counts? And in if this moment reflected who I want to be, what would I be doing? And so that's the C. Clarify what counts, who you want to be, where you want to go, what matters right now.
And this really brings the focus to direction or where you want to go versus just being in reactive mode.
Absolutely. And it centers on your values, not feelings that are both transitory and hard to control. Emotional mastery isn't about changing your inner state. It's aligning your behavior with what you care about, even though your emotions may be intense.
So the direction isn't just a willy nilly direction of what your emotions are dragging you through. It's an intentional direction that you're going in, and that's really I think the key part of this framework that we have, this calm framework, and everything
Yeah.
we do, and everything we do in our solution focused work with all of our clients and our quests, and everything we do is that whole atmosphere of intentional direction.
Right, right. And I like to think of purposeful too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something I know that intention is like popular way to think about it.
Hmm.
And it works. If it works for you, great. I had an incident years ago where somebody said, "Oh, but they intended to clean up after themselves." It's kind of a ridiculous thing, but they didn't. They left a big mess in a public space that other people had to clean up. And I always remember it's like, well, they intended to do it. They intended to do it. It's like, yeah, but they didn't. So that's why we want to see action. We want to
Right.
see, we want, and that's our whole solution focused approach is taking kind of vague abstractions into behavioral activation. So it's clarify what counts to you, where do you want to go, what matters to you, and what will you be doing when you are true to your values.
Okay, so that's the C in the calm and our first question. So what's the A in calm and our second question?
Right. So anchor change in whatever's already working. So ask yourself, what have I done before that helped me stay present, centered, grounded, even if it was just a little. So you can think about what's even a small past action you took that made a difference. Even if it was taking a pause or staying silent or taking one big breath or even just saying, I just need a little break and walking away calmly. So that's the second anchor change in what's working. Look at your past history of successes, even if they were minute.
Yeah, and this is helpful. We always get to visualizing, but this is helpful to consider when you have done these, when you've done this successfully in the past, and then and visualizing you doing it in the future. That those two go hand in hand. That what's already working, and then visualizing into the future. I may be jumping ahead here, but I always connect those two together, and they naturally fall into place together.
Yeah, absolutely. And to help you reveal the things that you were doing in the past that helped you manage intense emotions, you have two questions. We've talked about this before, and I'll repeat them. Is the what questions? What were you doing? And how you were doing it. And those are very important because what you're doing it can be, tactical. I use deep breathing, but how were you doing it? And that's the process that you need to have both and drill down exactly what you were doing. What was the thought that you had? What prompted you to be able to do that? What were the environmental factors that supported your doing it? What were social factors that supported you, taking that pause, whatever it was.
Yeah, and when you visualize it in so many different ways, that how, because again, our brain doesn't know the past, present, or the future. So when we visualize it, that and all those, the environment we were in, what triggered us, or what prompted us to do the behavior, and that it also works for the future because we are living it in such vivid detail.
That's right. Yeah, we've already primed the nervous system for that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what's the second question in our six questions?
Oh, so I think we've got what matters most right now. What have I done that helped me stay centered, grounded, present, even a little? And notice we're not looking for perfection. Somebody could really upset you. You're not looking for a still face. You're looking for what helped you even a little to feel like you were moving in the direction that counts.
So the noticing is the first part because that's where you're able to get that space, and even labeling it or naming it something, so you get that space. And then what do I want to do instead? When in the past have I done this? What have I done successfully? And then I guess we could move into the L, right?
Yeah, right. The L of calm. So that's leverage the power of imagination. So in this,
Because which I was kind of
yeah,
alluding to, yeah,
exactly. You were jumping the gun a little bit on that one.
yeah.
And yeah, so you imagine emotional mastery becoming a little more real over the next 1 or 2 weeks, maybe even a little longer, could be shorter, but you project yourself into the future and ask yourself if this emotional mastery or your ability to stay present, aware, open, and respond in ways that align with your values, represented who you want to be, how you want to be seen in the world. If that were unfolding just a little bit more, what would you be doing differently? Even just the tiniest bit. What would other people notice that would say, "Oh, something's different?" And then what would you notice that would be new or meaningful to you?
Yeah, some people and our clients when we do this is where they struggle a little bit in this part. Why do you think that is?
Oh, why do I think that is? Oh man, that's a question. For a lot of reasons. Number one, we're not used to it. We're not
Yeah.
used to suspending. It's really like going to a movie. And I think, that might be a good metaphor is use your life as a movie because we certainly can suspend what's it called? Suspend reality when we
Yeah.
watch a movie. There are all
Yeah.
sorts of crazy things that go on in a movie and we go, oh yeah, and we cry and we laugh and we cheer for the good guy or, boo for the bad guy, whatever. We're in that moment of kind of suspension, and that's what we need to do. And I think, also maybe that's one reason I think that it's just hard. People don't have practice. Why? What do you think? I mean, from your experience.
Yeah, I think that the visualizing into the future sometimes people don't see the value, or the clients don't see the value, or they see it as maybe a little corny to think into the future. Just some blocking about why how visualization works, but it's so powerful, and top performers in all areas of expertise, from musicians and astronauts and athletes, surgeons, they all do this type of visualization into the future, and imagining what they'll be doing and how they'll be performing. I mean, I just ran a race yesterday, and that part of the prep for it was to let's visualize that whole course in my head, and what would I be doing? What would I be noticing other people would be doing in that surrounding? Um, and those are so many times where you're going to have where you have an opportunity where you could where you could fall apart, maybe, I guess, for lack of a better term, and lack of a better statement, and by visualizing, you're like, no, I've been here, I went through this. It just gives you an extra. You might still have a letdown of some sort into yourself, but you have a little better floor to be able to say, oh no, wait, I've done this before. I remember what I'm supposed to do.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that traps people, so no, we're not used to doing it. It's something that's not invited in our culture. We also have this, no pain, no gain.
Right.
I think that's a really big factor is that we feel like we don't just deserve having it. We have to somehow work hard, and there's got to be some pain with it. And you do have to work hard to do that mental rehearsal and focus your attention. But it's not the kind of work hard of like, digging down deep and finding out what the problem is or the origin or, why you blow up when somebody cuts in front of you. And I think there, some of those little voices, you don't deserve it. I think those are present. At the same time, we know from a lot of research and very current brain imaging research that if you want to make a change in your life, don't start with tactics like, well, what's the easiest step I could take? Because immediately you say, well, it's an easy step, but I'm tired, it costs too much, I don't have time, blah, blah, blah. They say, start with the dream. It starts with the imagination. And we know this from work internationally with tens of thousands of communities who've transformed themselves. We're talking mostly in all over the world, including just developing countries. They start with the dream and they project themselves into a better future. And then they work backwards. So this is what leverage the power of imagination does.
And
What
this
would you think?
Yeah, what would you be doing? And this is really what the power of our approach, the solution focused approach, is, and what it leads to lasting change is this visualizing. This L step is not an insignificant step to this process of emotional mastery.
Right. And we built it. So we said, well, what really counts? Who is the person I want to be? How do I want to be seen in the world with what matters now? Then what have I done in the past that's even helped me a little bit? So we start recognizing even bits of evidence of that person, ideal of ourselves that been, and now we take it forward into the future without getting trapped by that wall of cost. I'm here, here's the cost. Too hard, too much time, takes too much time, effort, money, etc. We're just catapulting over it. And so it's not a barrier, just drops away. So we imagine. And so using this imagination, it's a bridge between the current and the future change. And that activates hope. When we have an idea, when we have a goal, when we have evidence of our capacity to meet that goal. And then when we talk about what would I be doing differently, so that actually gives us some tactics.
Excellent. So let's move on to the last part of the framework, the M in calm. We have the clarify, we have the anchor, we have the leverage. Now, what is the M?
And that is the one that everybody's looking for. What do I do now? You move into effective action. So, and this is kind of the inevitable step in this solution focused process. From what counts, what are your values, who do you want to be, what have you done before that's even revealed a shred of evidence of your capacity to do this, and who are you going to be in the future, what difference will make, etc. And now we move into, you've lived through it, and now within the next 24 hours, what are you going to do? What's one's action that you can take that reflects indeed who you want to be, and what and shows you, tells you you are on that path towards change.
Yeah, this is really powerful because this turns that emotional intensity moment from an obstacle into just the backdrop, and shifts the focus from just controlling how you feel, and then more into, what are you going to do about it? It operationalizes this principle of valued action under emotional load.
Yeah, I can't underscore that enough. That is so perfect. That valued action under emotional load, or we say acting in the service of your values in the context of uncomfortable feelings or painful memories or whatever it is, emotionally charged situations. It's that we're not, quote, controlling emotions by tamping them down, because then that tamps down the emotions that you want. It tamps down joy. It numbs you to life. So we want to be present to experience it, but it doesn't direct our attention. It's like Viktor Frankl says, right? We are free to choose our response. We may not be free to choose exactly the situation we find ourselves in, but we choose our response. Same thing with emotions.
Excellent. So let's move on to the fifth question.
And so we put calm together, and that's after the moment. You ask yourself what worked. So let's say you do this exercise, you find yourself in a kind of emotionally charged situation, and you're able to respond in a way that, that's right for you, that reflects you at your best. So after that moment, ask yourself what worked. What did you do that pleased you? What helped you move through the emotional intensity in a way that reflected your values, that enabled you to be the person you want to be?
Yeah, and this when you go back and do this reinforces that success and builds that self-efficacy that I can do this. That when our clients notice this, that they did this well, that they just didn't survive that moment. They were able to really move forward, at least in some capacity, with their values. And that's really where the power of this whole process comes into play. That's what really leads to this lasting.
Absolutely. It's not, absolutely. Lasting change means it's really a transformation about who you are. And then notice that this after the moment always also then connects in a way to, what have I done? That anchor change and what's already working. So I'm building the weight of that anchor.
It's a circular process, or a ongoing process there. Yeah, where one part connects to the other part and keeps growing. Right. And that's why when people stay with us for a while, and that's what we're doing. We're continually pointing those things out over and over and over again till our clients say they have 100-degree mind shift because they're starting to thinking this way. And that loop is happening on in their own head. That's when they become their own best coach.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting that you can do it on your own. It's so obvious, like, oh, these are easy questions. I can do it. But it's not until you do it both in a structured way independently and within a group, the way we have our group coaching and how we pose questions to participants in the group, where it takes on a different context in a way. It sounds new and every moment is new. So even though we may be asking the same sorts of questions, we come to it fresh, and our participants come to it fresh with fresh mind and then fresh ideas. They discover new things.
Yeah, I think that's why some people love some of our clients just love the group setting so much, because they see other people, how they're interpreting this, and it really inspires each of us. So let's move on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I wanted to say, they hear themselves say it, and that's powerful. They hear themselves say it in a public setting, and that just so reinforces that identity. I'm not only thinking it to myself, but I've made the public proclamation, and people start looking at me the way I want to be seen.
Wow, yeah, I didn't think about that. So okay, let's go to the last question, our sixth question in our here in our Calm framework.
Yeah. The sixth question is, what did I learn about myself? What does this successful moment tell me about my skill to manage my emotions, to work with my emotions, my capacity for dealing with emotionally charged situations? And what does it tell me about what I'm able to do into the future?
Yeah, again, and this is another question to help complete that cycle and reinforce this identity shift, to reinforce the self-efficacy that you have, and your ability to shift from reactive to intentionality, from overwhelm to resourcefulness. This is really these two last two questions are so powerful, because they bring you back into that cycle and continue to show that you've integrated this experience as part of your growing story.
I love that. Integrate the experience and your growing story. I think that's beautiful. And that really is what this whole process is about. It's continual learning, and it's not like one and done, because you will get challenges that keep testing you and enabling you to grow your capacity to take on harder and harder stuff.
So clarify what counts and where you want to go, anchor change in what's already working, leverage the power of imagination, move into effective action, and then bring it all together with the reflections. I mean, those last two reflection questions.
Absolutely.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic place for us to wrap up. If this was helpful, hit like or subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. And we talk about solution-focused strategies every week, including these amazing 6 questions that you can ask yourself. We have an upcoming quest that, as we've been talking about, the Emotional Mastery Quest. It's a real-world process for working with emotion without shutting down or blowing up. And we use this Calm framework. So be sure to join us for that. We'll have the link in the show notes for that. What else? We also have a new emotional mastery cognitive quiz to see how well you are doing with your emotions. So we'll have the link in the show notes for that too as well. Take that quiz and see where you stand. And if you have any questions, put in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about our unique solution-focused approach, book a complimentary session by going to Stamina Lab. Oh, that's staminalab.io. Thank you, Dr. Teplow.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, remember, you are your own lab, you are your own experiment, and you are your own best coach. Be well.